Welcome to Hearts and Stripes, your one-stop shop for all things military marriage. I hope our discussions and interviews equip you with the tools to start or grow a beautiful marriage as we address the benefits and challenges of marriage. I believe life's most precious moments are worth celebrating, so I'll help you design your marriage blueprint in alignment with your core values. Thank you for joining us, and remember to rate, subscribe, and review. Let's do this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hearts and Stripes podcast. This is your host, Bree Carroll, here with another Heart to Heart. And let me just say, I am really excited about this episode. Y'all gonna have to bear with me for a little bit because I feel like I'm gonna have a whole lot of shout outs, and I definitely need to acknowledge some people who have supported, who have been a part of this journey. But also, I'm a little hyped, y'all, because I was about to allow some dates to pass that I needed to acknowledge. And because Rachel Luna, shout out to her, came from my life in a webinar or a retreat, I should say a virtual retreat, talking about how okay, let me back up. I really like to celebrate other people, highlight other people, which is a part of my natural being. Like that's who I am. If you need a hype girl in the comments, if you need somebody to like try your thing or whatever, I love to support when I have the bandwidth to. Let me caveat that before y'all flood my inbox. But I love to celebrate other people, but I do not do a good job of celebrating myself, of celebrating the accomplishments that have been made. And I'm going to do better starting right here with this episode, which is why I'm excited, because we have just passed the threshold and completed year 2 of the Hearts and Stripes podcast. So I am super hyped and excited about just being in podcast land for 2 years. Is not for the faint of heart. That's all I'm going to say. We are almost at our 100th episode. So that is super cool to look out for. And then, it's really exciting that as I celebrate the podcast, I really celebrate all of you, because it wouldn't be possible if you weren't listening, if you weren't applying the things, if you weren't being a part of this journey with me. So let me start by just saying thank you. Thank you for listening to Hearts and Stripes podcast. Thank you for providing the feedback, the insight. I've had some people even provide like, ideas for episodes. Like, yes, please do. And matter of fact, let me go ahead and foot stomp that. If you have a recommendation for an episode that you'd love to hear, or maybe a guest that you would love to hear on the podcast, please do. I want to hear it. And another great way so that I can hear your voice, not just on Instagram, that's where I like to play at It's Bree Carroll. That's It's Bree Carroll on Instagram, but also by leaving a review. Listen, I'm gonna pull up my app right now. This is real time. Like I said, y'all gonna have to bear with me on this episode. Real time. Let me pull up the show app, and I'm pulling it up in Apple Podcasts so that I can see. Guys, we have 44 5-star ratings and reviews on the podcast. That's Apple all by itself. Thank you. That is so huge. And if you have not left a review, it's not too late, friends. I read them. I definitely want to hear from you. And actually, I think that may be an added segment that we do as we continue into year 3 of Hearts and Stripes podcast, so that I can shout y'all out, because we have had some amazing reviews, some amazing feedback, and I love to read them, because it's things that we apply, and it's things that we said, all right, great, that really resonated with the people, with our military community and our couples. So let's do it again. Let's figure out another way to recreate that moment, or to recap it even, which is what we will be doing in this next series. But before I get into all of that, 2 years of Hearts and Stripes have been amazing, but I wanted to share something that I actually did as I was coming up on the anniversary of Hearts and Stripes podcast. And what I did actually was I asked a good friend of mine, Michaela at the Iron Agency, to do a podcast audit. Yep, I asked her to utilize her area of genius, and I was like, hey, check out what I've been doing in these podcast streets and let me know how I am doing. And she did an amazing job on this audit, y'all. So shameless plug to any other podcasters out there. Go check out Michaela at the Iron Agency. I'm going to link her below. She's probably going to like fuss at me, but it's fine. I already said shamelessly, I like to highlight other people, and I'm going to keep doing that as I also highlight myself. See, you see how I got that lesson? Full circle. So she did an audit on the podcast, and some of the things that in real time I am looking at in this audit, I just felt like I wanted to go back and share because it makes me think of episode 53. So episode 53 of this podcast is the marriage year in review, or how I like to say it, the MPR, which is the marriage performance report, because, you know, in this service life, our service members typically have OPRs and EPRs. And in that episode, I walked you through how to do a marriage performance review. And it's something that I think that episode came out in December, but I wanted to bring it to your attention now because let's be gracious with it. We have a month and a half left on 2021, and there's still a great amount of time and opportunity for you to make this year great and to set yourself up for success for 2022. So in this audit that I received on my podcast, I wanted to share some of the takeaways that came out of that. And the first one that I'll say is just an acknowledgement. I think when it comes to the podcast, I did not or had not taken the time to acknowledge how many great and impactful guests that I had. I hadn't acknowledged how many listeners, like downloads that I'd had, because I really thought I was still out here talking to no one. No, y'all are in these streets. Y'all are actually listening. And that's why I started this episode by saying thank you. We have hit 5,000 downloads on the podcast. Boo, 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 boo. I need some like sound effects or something. I don't know. But that's a really big deal, especially since most podcasts don't go to beyond 10 episodes, and we're almost at our 100th, and we have a great amount of downloads. And I realized in doing the audit or asking someone to help me with this audit that I had not paused and really acknowledged how far we've come in this podcast. And it's something that I am encouraging you to do and in your military marriage. Take the time to acknowledge, think through the last year or even this year. Let's keep it real measurable, right? 2021, what did your relationship look like in January? What did it look like in February? What did it look like in March? What changes has happened to your life? Maybe your living situation, maybe your attitude. What areas of growth have you seen, right? I'm encouraging you to, as you do this audit of your marriage, that you acknowledge the good things, the growth things, right? Now, also in this review, let me just say that there were some negative things in there. There were some things that I had slipped, I had missed, I didn't quite do right, but as my coach Patrice Washington says, sloppy progress, which is just a way of saying don't wait for things to be absolutely perfect before you take action, because you could be holding up a blessing, or you could be holding something up from happening because you're hoarding it and you're keeping it to yourself before you release it into the world because you want it to be perfect. Sloppy progress means, you know what, we're gonna get out here and we're gonna do it and we're gonna figure it out as we go. So I definitely had some areas of error like that, but you know what, I want to ask you what areas of improvement or some areas that you think, you know what, I could have maybe did a better job of in your military marriage. What comes up when you think about areas of improvement? And I can say, being fully transparent on here, you know, I don't mind. It's my tone. your girl has issues with tone, and how I communicate some things, and I need to work on that continuously. I do. I really do. And I don't laugh because I think it's funny and I should just get it passed. No, I'm holding myself accountable, and I'm sharing it here so that you can also hold me accountable and also hold yourselves accountable and realize that if tone is your issue, guess what? You're not alone, friend. But there are areas of improvement for all of our marriage relationships. And as we sit back and we stop and we do this marriage year in review, we're going to acknowledge everything that has happened and find that those great moments in there. 2, we're going to look at those areas where we can improve upon, right? And 3, I want to talk about your impact. Looking at your impact, because one of the things that Michaela did when she did this podcast audit for me was she talked about it. For those of you who watch the YouTube series, the podcast is on YouTube. Like every episode is up on YouTube. And she talked about being intentional with my impact, one, on YouTube, and how I should be premiering some episodes so that people get the notifications that the episode is going to drop. And then also she talked about being intentional when it comes to sharing the episodes and the different content and quotes and stuff on social media. Cause I just be like, hey, the episode is out here. Y'all check it out. I'll be real quiet about it. And I just post one time. And really a lot of people miss it. Even the people who love the podcast, they may miss it just because that's just how social media works. Right. But the way I want you to think about this when it comes to your military marriage, and I use that word that I love to use, which is intentional. When you're doing your marriage year-end review, I would love for you to think through the impact that you made in your marriage. So for me, as I think about that and I kind of break that down, it makes me think of my girls who love when mommy and daddy are showing affection. Like if we kiss, they say that we're getting married, or they like the fact that I called their dad my boyfriend. So they went and told their teacher that mommy has a boyfriend, and we had to clear that up. She did say that daddy is her boyfriend. She helped, but they was side-eyeing me like, what? Either way, I can tell that my marriage relationship is impacting how my girls view relationships, how they view partnerships, because we talk about with them that we are a team, that we are a partnership. And typically when they want us to like do some type of competitive team, mommy and daddy always try to be on the same team. We're kind of double teaming them, but it's okay. The point is that they see that we like to stay together as a team. And then we also put our hands together, all of us, and say, Team Carol. We have moments like that, and it creates impact in their life. But I also want to think about our impact beyond that. Like I am able to show up on this podcast, feeling energized and excited to work, to get the guests on, to share the resources and the content, because I have someone who is supporting me in doing this. I think I shared earlier in the year that I am an entrepreneur full-time currently, right? And I'm excited about growing my business to new heights and new levels. And it is because of the impact that my marriage has had on my professional life, on my career. As you go through this marriage year in review, think about the impact that your marriage has had on other areas. I know one area that, or another, I should say, that has been impacted is finances. In our marriage, I think we did a really good job of being, and continue to do a good job of being really intentional about our finances and being in financial freedom, which we are excited about. But we are impacting other people because we're sharing that information. Because I know some of you may have seen on Instagram, I bought 2 copies of Crazy Faith. So we gave those away. I shared one with another person, but that is just another way that our marriage is creating impact. So let's talk on the other side of that coin too. Our children have seen mommy and daddy maybe giving each other the silent treatment a time or two, or mommy being grouchy about something because I was frustrated, and mommy's tone maybe didn't come off well with them. I had to apologize to them. And for those who maybe haven't apologized to your children, please start just take that one. Take that one for free. It's really good so that they see and can model that behavior as well. But it's neither here nor there. I'm saying that there are impacts on your marriage relationships that can be positive and negative, right? So think about how your marriage relationship impacts areas on both sides. And look at it, and I would like to say journal on it a little bit for these 3 areas and do an audit on your marriage for 2021. You're going to acknowledge those growth areas, those positive things, those great moments that you've had together. You're going to look at those areas of improvement, and you're going to look at how your marriage impacted things, situations, how it overflowed into different areas in the positive and the negative. So that is the marriage audit that I hope that you're going to do. And by all means, guys, please go back and check out episode 53, the marriage year in review. There's actually a download that goes with that. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to link that up. Either I'll add a link. No, I'll definitely add a link in the show notes so that you can have access to it. It's retro, y'all. It's not cute. It ain't pretty, but it works. And the questions and everything still is a great review for your relationship. But I really hope that you take the time to journal specifically on these marriage audit areas, because that acknowledgement, that improvement, that impact, it really makes a difference. And then take it a step further by journaling, or after you've completed the worksheet from episode 53, take it a step further and start planning for 2022. What do you want to do more of? What would you like to do less of? What moments do you want to come back to when you do this at the end of 2022 to acknowledge? What are some things you're going to be intentional about? I'm staying away from the word goal, because I don't want to call it a goal just yet, right? I want you to just take some time and brain dump, thinking about what this year looked like as you start to plan for your next year and start hitting some goals and some things for your relationship. Because you know we love a marriage goal over here, #marriage goals. But I really want you to take the time, do the audit, review all the things, get that down on a piece of paper, and dream a little bit. Dream a little bit about what 2022 is. And like I said, a dream has to come before the goal, which is why we're just talking about that portion in this particular episode. And we'll probably go ahead and cover marriage goals in another episode to come, maybe in 2022. So as we wrap up this episode of Hearts and Stripes, let me just say again, a huge thank you to all of you who listen to this podcast week after week. A huge thank you to Joe Main, our media manager. Shout out to him who supports the podcast and my company, B. Carroll Events. Shout out to Michaela from the Iron Agency. And shout out to just all of the past guests who have been on the podcast. I would rattle out some names, but I think I'm going to just start like highlighting them at random on Instagram, because we had some amazing episodes that we have put out into the world that really have the opportunity to change and transform our military marriages so that we are marriage strong. Before I let you go, I do want to let you know that I am excited because I will have a very special guest who will be joining me for this next season. And it is our Unwrap and recap series. And I will be chatting with none other than Juvelin Garcia. So we started to do that a little bit in this episode, as I talked about episode 52 on the marriage year-end review. But this next series, Juvelin is going to help unpack some of the big aha moments from our top listened to episodes here on Hearts and Stripes podcast. I am so excited for you to hear her heart. She is such a pleasure to just be in community with. She has such a sweet spirit. Awesome all around businesswoman, mom. She is a champion for date nights. So if you need somebody to get some ideas from, that's your girl. And Juvelin is just all around somebody that I admire and I'm excited to share this platform with. So she is going to be our guest for this series, which will help wrap us up into 2022. Guys, woo! Time is flying. And I am so grateful to be here on Hearts and Stripes podcast. Thank you for making year 2 amazing. I'm so excited for all that is to come for 2022. But before I get ahead of myself, let's make sure that we finish 2021 off strong. Okay, so now it is time for our favorite part of the episode, or at least it's mine. It is our heart track, and we are going to do a throwback. I'm really excited about this heart track, y'all. And I'm excited that I thought about it, I guess. But the throwback is to Michael Jackson. We are going to do Remember the Time. Is that the title? Let me make sure. Yes. Remember the Time, Michael Jackson. That is the heart track for today, because I need y'all to get all the way in your MJ vibe and groove as you do this marriage audit and think back through the years so that you can acknowledge all those areas of growth and good moments, so that you can look for those areas of improvement, and that you can definitely think about the impact that you had on one another, on your families, on your careers, on your community. And I mean, who else is an impactful person than MJ? Michael Jackson has completely impacted this world. And I would hope that our life and our legacies and our marriages are truly impactful as well. But we got to be intentional about guarding what that impact looks like. So shout out to today's heart track from none other than the King, Michael Jackson. Remember the Times. Remember, you can listen to the full playlist of our heart tracks on Spotify. The playlist is Heart Tracks 2. That's Heart Tracks 2 on Spotify. And we always link it below so that you can easily access all of the songs that will remind you of our topics from past episodes. So, again, this is the end of year 2 of Hearts and Stripes podcast. I am so grateful for what will come. Thank you for continuing to listen and learn and grow right here as we have these heart to hearts on Hearts and Stripes podcast. See y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to rate, subscribe, and review. This is Hearts and Stripes. We are the few, the proud, that aim high and are forged by love. Always ready, always there. We are Mill Marriage Strong.